welcome to another session of Caffeine and Carrots. And today I have Nanesh Pujari with me. He's Director of CS at Utami. Welcome, Nanesh.
Thanks so much, Anshi, for this opportunity. It's great talking to you on our favorite topic, CS.
I know. So, today I'm equally excited about today's session because today we want to talk more about managing CS team. And Nanesh has been leading teams in several organizations. He's based out of Singapore, so several organizations in Singapore he has been leading CS teams on. So we will be talking more about managing CS team, the CS skill set, the expectation, so on and so forth. So shall we begin?
Sure. Thank you.
Right. So the first question that I would shoot is obviously this is your experience on managing team. Then how do you actually look to organize your team? Because most of the organizations have different set of customers or other different profiles of customers and different skill set in orgs as well. So how do you look to organize your CS team?
Yeah, so organization of CS team, I think there are different ways to go about it. The one thing is if your company has multiple products, then you can allocate like CSMs by product. Another way to look at it is also a ticket size of the customer, like what's the ARR for the customer, so you can segregate customer into like a gold, platinum, or the long tails, so depending upon whatever revenue that they bring in. That's the most easiest way to like allocate the CSMs. My personal favorite here is market based, like a country based setup, or a regional based, depending upon how many CSMs you have. So my way is to like allocate like South Asia, like India, Bangladesh, and then a CSM for Southeast Asia, then a one for ANZ, and one for North Asia, like Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong. So in that way, what really happens is that you become like more of a regional center of excellence in the team, which becomes like a more of a hub in a particular region. And one of the key things for CSM is also to build relationship with the customer. So if we allocate CSMs to a particular country, market, or a region, it becomes easier for a CSM to travel to the customer base and build that relationship or the rapport with the customer. So yeah, different ways to look at it. It really depends upon how your company or the product is set up and what you want to achieve with the customers.
Perfect. And now, since we talked about the regional grouping of teams and organizing them likewise, and as we had talked about it a while ago, we had a webinar on CS in APEC. And we talked about different aspects of different countries, how CS is slightly different than the way CS is in US, so on and so forth. So you being in Singapore for quite a while now and working with the region across, so what is your take on CS in the region, or at least specific in Singapore?
Yeah. See, CS in APAC definitely is a different beast. Like it's very different than how we run business in North America, EMEA, or LATAM. So APAC, you see, is a group of countries. It's hard. Even someone from the US will not be able to identify, how many countries we really have in the market. So around 20 to 30 markets, and there's some mature markets, and there are some emerging markets. So yeah, depending upon depending upon the customer base, where your customer is coming from, I think that's one of the challenge. I see it more of an opportunity for learning also, right? When your customers are coming from a different background, different markets, their needs and requirements would be like really very much different from what we see in other regions. And one of the key things for a CSM is also to close the feedback loop with the product team in terms of what the market is thinking about the product. So in that way, we have multiple markets. So you can say it's multiple use cases. It's a learning opportunity for the company. That's very much different. Another thing is we are a very relationship based market, so relationship is very important in APAC. So for a CSM, of course, building relationship is important for a CSM anywhere. But I think having that one-to-one rapport with the customer, meeting them face to face, I think that is really, really helpful. And I really recommend my CSMs to actually meet the customer once in a while, every month, every quarter, whatever works for the CSM in terms of their travel calendars. Definitely, I recommend meeting the customer rather than having Zoom calls. It does make a lot of difference. So I think that is something very different and unique in APAC. Also, another thing, like in APAC is definitely one thing I spoke about, the learnings about the product. So people or the customers use a particular product in a very different way in like, for example, in India and Australia. So it becomes a good learning curve for the product teams also. So yeah, so those are the key differences I see in APAC, and also finding talents can be a little difficult in APAC because the whole SaaS industry is evolving at the moment. It's still new for APAC, although when I was hiring 5 to 6 years back, it was really difficult. It has improved a lot. In places like Singapore, I think we are quite lucky and fortunate to have a good pool of talents from different nationalities and backgrounds. So it becomes a little easier for hiring in Singapore. Otherwise, the concept of CS, I think, is still emerging in the market. But although I see a lot of development in the whole SaaS industry and the CS industry from compared to 5 6 years back till now. If you look at companies coming out of India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and a lot of startups who are purely SaaS based, and a lot of people I see, like very much interested in the CSM role. I see these emails coming from these young talents trying to move into SaaS, move into CSMs, or specifically into digital. So definitely, I see that interest is growing, and I think there's more opportunity definitely in the market in the future.
Wonderful. So, actually, I enjoyed hearing your thoughts about CS and APEC. These are, I would not say contradicting to what we discussed, but these are very different that we really had not talked about then. The perspective,
Mhm.
looking at the product from different regions, regional lens, and taking the feedback back to product teams, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. Very interesting. And now, since you also talked about the market, uh, let us hear your thoughts on how, or rather, what kind of challenges do you face in managing teams and organization, given that CS is still evolving and market is not in its best state? So the expectation is also changing, the skill set, the way teams are building. So bottom line, essentially, what kind of challenges do you see in managing your team, given CS is evolving and the market is not in its best state?
Yeah, definitely. The market is not that great at the moment because we started with COVID, with then the war situation and the overall economic situation at the moment. We see that as a ticket size, it kind of downgrades a little bit in terms of SaaS because customers are not willing to commit more. Like it's not an issue with the SaaS model; it works really fine. It's just the commitment thing that a customer that is customers used to commit a lot before, and now they are like protecting their marketing budget. So I think this is going to be there for at least for this year. Definitely, we see a trend where I think Q4 can be much better than what we have seen in H2. So that's one of the challenges, in terms of CSM to retention of the business. And with that, one of the important rules for our CSM is also growth of the business. When we are also firefighting on the retention business at the moment, growth becomes scare. Like it's something that like a CSM needs to put a lot of effort in to grow the business. So that's one of the key challenges. Apart from that, I think time management is something that is very, very critical for a CSM. You can do like n number of things for a customer. You can do your admin works. You can do your day-to-day questions, answers to the customer. That's one of the challenges. But one of the important things is also for a CSM to understand how strategically they use their time. So that's one of the challenges I see, which is very, very important at this time where we're trying to have more leaner teams and try to service a lot of customers through one CSM. So that's also a bit of a challenge. I think it's with a good time management and strategic placements with the customer, I think we can achieve that.
Interesting, interesting. So now, since we talked about different requirements within CS and the way they have to balance, so let me put an open-ended question towards you. So, how do you balance the skill set within your team, and at the same time ensure that team still works as a unit? Although most of them would be individual contributors, but there still is a whole lot of team learning and cross pollination that goes in, and one supports the another when another is off, so on and so forth. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, definitely. CSM definitely is an individual contributor, but it's actually a part of the team. So if I have like 10 CSMs in the team, they have their own book of business, but ultimately all the numbers boil up to me to become like a more of a regional number. So we definitely work as a unit, and that's the way to go. But my style is more into like, we have upper level OKRs for the CSMs, and CSM have their own book of business, and they are free to choose what path they choose to achieve that retention goal or the growth opportunity with the customer. See, skill set. I think we try to hire teams with different kind of backgrounds. That's very, very important to begin with. On a personal front, I would love to see a team which is multicultural. Singapore, again, we are very fortunate to get those resources available in the market. So multicultural team and also teams from different backgrounds. So I have been largely working on the digital advertising side, but I love to hear from a CSM from different verticals, like a production or medical or travel or different industries. So I think hiring people from different industry also is something that can be valuable. So that's more of a like a background kind of a thing that you can start or begin with. After that, definitely CSMs have their own book of business, but we try to create different kind of subject matter expert within the teams. For example, you always have this product rollouts coming out for your products, or you have multiple products, or you have products which is targeted to different verticals or different industries. So you can create like different CSMs as a CS subject matter expert for a particular product or a region or a industry, so that CSM becomes like a one-stop person or a main POC for all the knowledge that is available in particular industry. I think that's how we can, even we are individual contributors, we can actually relate back to the team and bring that knowledge or share that knowledge. Okay, this really works in this industry. This doesn't really work, and why? So I think trying to create those like mini knowledge bases between the CSMs, and then we have our weeklies update, in terms of, CSM, they talk about their business, the challenges, and anything interesting that they want to share. So that meeting becomes like a good knowledge sharing, and we don't really talk about their own personal book of business, but we that's all into our one-on-ones. But for the team, meeting is more about learning and sharing. So I think that's how I do with the team.
I like that mini knowledge hub thing.
Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of sense having multiple products and multiple industries when you're working with. Great. You also talked about hiring CSMs with different industry knowledge, and that
Mhm.
perhaps would help you in building those mini knowledge hubs. So, if we dive a little deeper into that, and I request you to share what is the entire skill set, or largely a skill set that you look for when you're hiring a CSM. So, one
Mhm.
is the background that they come from, and what else do you really look for?
Yeah, so I see CS as a team as more of a mindset rather than team, right? So that's the most important thing. So when I hire, I look at their mindset. What are their thought processes? As I told you, CSM hiring in APAC can be a little difficult also, while it has become easier these days, but still it was very difficult. So it's important to look at their mindset and the traits that they actually bring in. A few things to really understand is that they need to be a strong individual contributor, which means that they need to own a number, right? So most of the team or most of the members might not be, like inclined towards that thing. So owning a number, owning your book of business, and having a growth target on top of it, I think this is something a CSM should be very comfortable with, because that's the first OKR that we have. So I look at those traits in terms of, is someone happy managing their own book of business by themselves? That is something very, very important to them. And CSM is like they do their business in their own way, in their own style. So we need people who actually run the business in their own style, rather than, like giving a lot of instructions to them. That's not going to work definitely with the CSMs, because based on their customer type, they are the best decision makers, they are the pilots, so they do their own business in their own style. So I think this is something that they should be very aware of and comfortable with. The other thing is time management, project management, and strategically, like evolving, having a meeting with the customer. Because as I mentioned, there are n number of things that you can do with the customer. You can answer day-to-day questions to them, do admin work to them. It's up to you what you choose to do with the customer. You want to do those high-level strategic meetings with the customer, or you want to work on the day-to-day stuff. You can do both the stuff. So you want to be a driver of the business, or you want to just, like execute things. So that's one of the difference. You need to be very good with project management, orchestrating things between the client and your own company, and building relationship with the client, and also internally with the customer, internally with the company. I think this is one thing that I have learned. We talk a lot about relationship with customers, but also internally within the company, you need to have good relationship with the legal team, your product marketing team, um, and then your all the other teams, like, sales team. Definitely that building that relationship, and how to match the talent and the requirements with the customer. I think that is super key. And one of the things is also positive attitude. Now this sounds like a very basic thing, but for a CSM, I think it's really important, because we are working with the customer for good 12 months. Like the sales cycle might be 2 or 3 months. We close the business and we work with the customer for entire 12 months. And there are a lot of issues that happen with a CS, with a particular account, starting from onboarding, with adoption challenges, expansion challenges, or with the retention challenges or growth challenges. I think the whole life cycle teaches us a lot. And I think it's important to keep that positive attitude, because one of the challenges can be, like there's a handover from CS sales to CS, and the stakeholder churn happens. Like that becomes like a block for, like at the beginning of the relationship. But I think this is a good opportunity also to build your relationship with a new stakeholder from scratch. Like that's an opportunity. So you need to look at it in a more positive way rather than a negative way. I think that's something very important for a CSM, and they need to continue this for the entire 12 months until they reach the retention or the renewal goal with the customer. So yeah, these are like basic things that we need to look at while hiring the customer. Obviously, attitude, the right kind of attitude is important. And these are like the basic things. And after that, I look into their experiences, what they have done, what industries they come from, what companies that they have worked with, what kind of roles they have done. It might be happening that, there's an account manager somewhere, there's a campaign manager or ad ops or operations person who can be strategic in terms of doing their business also. So I definitely look at this, different pool of candidates also while hiring, giving them an opportunity to showcase their skills also, because CSMs again can be very much different in different companies. A CSM in a particular company can just be more a reactive person rather than the proactive skill set. So you can't just go with the titles. You need to like talk to that person and see, like what fits your bill.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I specifically like that a point on positive attitude. like throughout the journey, as we pointed out, there will be many instances where you may actually just lose it. But then you have to keep that attitude to keep going. And 12 months you have invested all of it. And then if you don't keep your positive attitude, then you are doomed. So I really
Exactly. Yeah, really, really. Because when I talk about this stakeholder churn, which is very common in APAC, like there's a lot of people actually moving from different companies to other. It happens a lot in APAC in a very, very quick time frame. Um, I see it more as an opportunity. Like if you want to get some things done with the customer, which is not moving, it becomes an opportunity to reset things with a new stakeholder. Definitely. So definitely, and this is one of the challenges with the and I think we face like tens, hundreds of challenges with the customer, and we need to keep our like positive mindset and see what are the opportunities, what are the way we can solve problem for the customer or find a workaround and move forward.
Okay, perfect. Good. So now, since we talked about what you look for in a CSM, the next obvious thing is how do you help them envision their own career path, or in other words, how do you chalk out a career progression plan for them?
Yeah, very good question. I think this is something that I have been thinking about for last few years now when I was hiring and building a large team. Um, See, me as a manager, I see myself more as a mentor than having like a organization chart. I'm a manager or something like that. So I think we as a manager we need to be more of a mentor. There's one side of handling the work and the business, and how do you make sure that you service your customers. That's one topic, and other thing is the personal growth of the CSM. I think that's also a responsibility of a manager or a mentor to take care, and you need to actually be very, very clear in terms of what um, your requirements are, or what you want them to do. Like, so one of the things that I do is create role cards. So, for example, if I'm hiring a junior CSM, I have my job description and what all they do. A CSM, a senior CSM, and more of a like a global CSM and those kind of things. So we create different role cards, like a like what they want to achieve in next 1 year or 2 year. So and it can be anything. I just create a framework for all the CSMs, but it's also about managing up, right? And you need to be more vocal about what you want to achieve, what you want to do in your own career. So it's a two-way communication rather than one way communication. So manager can provide a framework. Okay, if you want to move up the ladder, if you want to do more, okay, these are 10 things that I want to see from you doing more. One of the examples can be you're working on a certain product at the moment, but we have 10 different products. You need to do at least three more products with a new customer for the next couple of years, and then we can move you up the ladder. Or you're handling a customer in Korea at the moment, but this customer is actually in all of Southeast Asia. So it's like, become more of a market to more of a regional customer, like a global customer. It can be anything. So I think this clarity should be given by the managers to the CSM, what they want to really want to see if they want to move up the ladder. And also I've seen, like CSMs, sometimes they are so much into individual contributor, they don't want to move into those senior roles, but they want to continue doing the same work with a new customer base also, right? So it's always not, that's not the right way to look at growth also, like it can be more of a flat or lateral movement also. um, Again, it's very important for a CSM to be more vocal about their career progress, because if they're investing some time, like a year or two with a team or a company, the key agenda is growth for a particular individual also. So I think it's all about that communication between managers and the CSM, what they want to achieve together. And the manager's role is to make sure that they have every resource available to achieve that goal. Like it can be something to do with the internal training. Or if the CSM is a little weak in terms of upselling or cross-selling, or they need some help, we can tap into the sales head, the sales team to give some kind of training to the CSMs. If that doesn't work fine, then we can do some external trainings. So we need to design the agenda we can call it a success plan with CSM also. We can design that plan for a CSM and see what we can do to achieve those particular goals. Definitely for me, work is one part, and but professional growth for a CSM, that is super important, because we all are here to grow and not do the same work every day.
Perfect. Perfect. I like this. I like this whole idea. Just extending it a bit further again. Uh, okay, first question. Do you think freshers are suitable for CS role, or you think it's a little too much to expect from them to be able to drive CS in an honest way? And if you think they can, then what would be your advice for them? How should they groom themselves? What is it that they should look for?
I think CSM is a very generalistic role. It's not like a specialized role. I mean, SaaS industry is in everywhere, in every vertical. So if I'm working in a digital industry, and if I want to go into selling servers, I can be a CSM there too, which is an entirely different setup. So in a way, it's a more of a general role. So yes, anyone like anyone coming from anywhere, a fresher or a much experienced one, coming from different backgrounds, different age groups or whatever, and everyone can be CSM. So there's no restriction on that. uh, but as I mentioned, these few things which is very important, and it's a very basic thing, like in terms of being strategic, being very good in terms of utilizing your time, positive attitude, and also um, being transparent in terms of like we giving feedbacks, and also building the relationship with the customer as well as internally with the company. I think these are few things that you need to already have. For freshers, definitely, like I see a lot of opportunity now for junior CSMs available in the market, where there's young startups, like they want CSM roles to be available for the customer, because people are realizing the importance of CSM role, and they're bringing it very early in their SaaS life cycle. So there are opportunities for freshers to actually join a young startup, and it's like doing a lot of different work, wearing different hats, where CSM does work different roles, and it's a good learning for a fresher also. But this basic traits, I think this remains very constant for a CSM, and rest on it, depending upon your skill set, how fast you learn, you can definitely grow and be like a awesome CSM. Yeah, that's for like for young talents or freshers. Another thing is also LinkedIn. I think that's a very powerful tool. I believe you can connect to a lot of different CS groups. Now there are so many different CS groups available in the market. There's so many different tools specific to CS. One of them is SmartKarrot, and also client success, gain size. A lot of events happening specific to CSM. So if you're really interested, I think you can browse on those resources online, and try to visit those events basically, and try to build that connections with all the CS leaders in the market. And it's all about trying, building that connections, building the rapport, reaching out, asking for help. I'm sure every CS leader in the market would be happy to spend like a time once a quarter with you, and you can have different mentors every year to understand your growth, and your career progressions, and give you advice. Everyone has some different learnings that they have learned from CS as a CSM. Definitely reach out, talk to people. I think that's how a fresher can definitely get into this role.
Very good to hear. Uh, Next thing that comes to my mind is, and maybe it's a bit redundant, but right now we have been talking about from our perspective what we expect of CSMs, what we look for in CSMs while hiring and all of that. But if we just flip it a little bit and try to understand what actually motivates or demotivates a CSM while in a role. And as a manager, I'm sure you would have done that digging. So what do you think
Mhm.
that is?
Yeah. One of the key things is a time, like as I told you, like like if we the expectation management, we can put it that way with with the manager and the management. Basically, what do you really want to achieve through a CSM? Like is it like more of a reactive support to the customer, or answering day-to-day questions, or do you want to be do you want to have a CSM who is more of a voice of the customer, or do you want a CSM who is more of orchestrating your product management with the customer? Do you want a CSM with who is focused on the growth opportunities with the customer? I think this expectation management needs to be done between the company and the CSM first before we move forward. Uh, uh, if you are really a good CSM, and if you ask the CSM to do a lot of admin work, do presentation, do QBR, which might not make sense, and not those strategic meetings, for example, I think that just does put off the CSMs, definitely. If your product is not in a shape where you are not delivering good news often to the customer, it's all about bad news, it's all about bugs. And also constantly firefighting on the product challenges, um, or like constantly giving bad news to the to the customer, and or constantly in that mode of retention of the business rather than the growth focused thing. I think this does put off the CSM. So as I think CSMs need to be given, we all said, like, okay, this is your book of business, you need to retain this revenue and you need to grow this revenue. But I think how is the question that the manager or the management needs to answer, basically providing a different playbooks, or providing a different kind of levers for them to pull to achieve or unlock those revenue with the customer. So it's what is something that we give to the CSM, but how is also something that we need to provide them, and they can go in their own way doing about, like exactly what. Um, so if you pull the customer, if you pull the CSM into a lot of day-to-day stuff, I think that puts them off, because that's not what they signed up for. And also constant product issues, or if giving those feedback from the customer which makes sense, and if your product team is not implementing those things, that can also create some like friction with the CSM role. And also the entire mindset, like it's as I told you, it's not a team, it's a mindset. Even a legal person needs to be a CS person in terms of the mindset. One of the example is that in APAC we have different payment terms, for example, or different kind of rules and government laws in a particular country. And if we are very strict with our own legal, like laws and all the terms and conditions, we will not be able to do business in certain markets. So we have to be a little flexible. And if you're not flexible that enough, I think it's more about being customer focused, right? That's more important. So if an entire company is not having that CS mindset, it becomes a little difficult for a CSM to do their own job. I think that's something definitely puts the CSM off.
Interesting. So I think we are about time, and maybe I'll shoot a last question, a very
Mhm.
simple one perhaps. So, what is a simple framework, or what are the key things, top two things, three things that you think CS managers should keep in mind in order to keep their team running in a best way?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you need to have with the CSM is definitely you have your own one-on-ones with your CSM, which is very, very personal focus. You don't talk about work in that meeting. You talk about their personal well-being in their in the one-on-ones. You can talk about all the work-related stuff in the weekly or the bi-weekly stand-up meetings that you have with the CSMs. I think it's important to focus both on a CSM's professional as well as personal growth, to do their job, their work, or what they want to achieve. I think it's the manager's responsibility to give them all the levers, give them all the resources that can be available to them, and make sure they have everything to make themselves successful. Because if they do their job well, ultimately the company will do well. So it's giving all the resources to them, and also creating a mindset of customer focused mindset within the entire company. I think it's a role of the CS also. I think that needs to be constantly pushed to, like internally, whenever you get this, mitigations with the customer as well as internally. I think we need to align them together on the product side, or between any team. It can be pricing or it can be anything. I think that mindset of CS focus, I think this is something that needs to be there within the CS team. You can't just function as a team which is providing support to the customer. If you want to really go beyond and do more, I think these are a few important things that need to be taken care of.
Great, great. Very helpful. Very helpful. In fact, I really enjoyed our entire conversation. Thank you. Thank you for your time, Manish, and we will connect sometime again. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.